Can't find any evidence, be it a backpack, a shoe, or whatever. We can't find the kids. If you can't find them, somebody has to say enough is enough right now for searching those areas. So now we move to where? There's only one other option. A nefarious take to this. In other words, a criminal type thing. That's only my personal opinion.
There's another physical search for the missing Sullivan siblings in Lansdowne Station over the weekend. 6-year-old Lily and 4-year-old Jack have been missing for a month now.
6-year-old Lily Sullivan and her 4-year-old brother Jack were reported missing around 10 a.m. on May 2, 2025, from their home on Gairloch Road in Lansdowne Station, located approximately 30 kilometers from New Glasgow, Nova Scotia. According to their mother, Malihia Brooks Murray, she woke that morning to the sound of the children playing in the next room. She briefly fell back asleep, but upon waking again and discovering they were no longer in the house, she immediately called 911. Their stepfather, Daniel Martel, has been deeply involved in the search efforts. He described Lily and Jack as awesome kids, noting Jack's love for bugs and dinosaurs, and how Lily, while fond of girly things, often followed her brother's lead. They're like best friends, not just brother and sister, he said. Malihia Brooks Murray moved to Daniel Martel's home 2 years ago, and as a stay-at-home mom, Daniel works at a local sawmill, but work has slowed down there in recent weeks, and he was not at work on Friday. Malihia Brooks Murray family members have raised concerns about the possibility of abduction and have urged authorities to expand the search beyond the immediate area to include provincial borders and transportation hubs. Martel also noted that certain items found during the search, such as clothing and a water bottle, did not belong to either child. Lily and Jack are members of the Sipek-Katik First Nation. In response to the case, Chief Michelle Glasgow publicly questioned the decision not to issue an Amber Alert and called for establishing a national alert system tailored to better respond to such emergencies. The kids did not attend school that week since Tuesday. They were kept home because Lily had a cough. The bus driver dropped them off at home after school on Tuesday. Wednesday, April 30th, 2025. The province had no school on Wednesday due to the Professional Development Day across all schools and public institutions in Nova Scotia. Thursday, May 1st, 2025. Afternoon, Lily and Jack were seen in public with family members on May 1st, 2025 in the afternoon, near Lansdowne Station. This is currently the last verified sighting. Friday, May 2nd, 2025. 10 a.m., 6-year-old Lily Sullivan and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan are reported missing from their rural home on Gairloch Road in Lansdowne Station, Pictou County, about 30 kilometers from New Glasgow, Nova Scotia source. The children were last seen playing in the yard. Mom's statement: "They were outside playing, but we weren't aware of it at the time, and the next thing we knew it was quiet." The Pictou County District RCMP is seeking the public's help in locating 6-year-old Lily Sullivan and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan, last seen the morning of May 2nd on Gairloch Road in Lansdowne Station. Lily has shoulder-length light brown hair with bangs and may be wearing a pink sweater, pink pants, and pink boots. Jack has short blondish hair and was last seen wearing blue dinosaur boots. Further clothing details are unknown. A vulnerable missing persons advisory has been issued. The RCMP asks the public to share this information responsibly on social media. 4:55 p.m. official update. RCMP confirms multi-agency search underway. Community asked to stay away. The search for missing children Lily and Jack Sullivan is ongoing in Pictou County. Since just after 10 a.m. this morning, May 2nd, a search has been underway for 2 children who are believed to have wandered from a home on Gairloch Road in Lansdowne Station, Pictou County. There is a multi-agency response currently on the ground in Pictou County. It includes resources from ground search and rescue teams from around the province who are collaborating to ensure resources and teams are available on an ongoing basis. The coordinated response includes ground search and rescue teams from across Nova Scotia. Additional support is being provided by the Civil Air Search and Rescue Association, CASARA, Department of Natural Resources Air Services, and various RCMP units, including police dog services and remotely piloted aircraft systems RPAS operators. The RCMP has also issued a vulnerable missing person alert for Pictou County. Authorities acknowledge and appreciate the widespread community support. However, the public is urged to avoid the area to allow trained personnel to conduct their operations effectively. The family is being regularly briefed on the progress of the search. By the end of the day Friday, tensions escalated between family members following the disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan. Some relatives from the children's mother's side accused their stepfather, Daniel Martel, of being involved. Martel stated that after the children vanished, their mother left to stay with her family elsewhere in the province and has since blocked him on social media. There was an argument in the yard that day, Martel said.
Evidence.
Daniel Martel says during the polygraph test, he was asked several things, including whether or not he was involved in the disappearance of the children. He says both his cell phone and that of his estranged wife were confiscated and searched by investigators. This and weeks of interviews, there still hasn't been a major break in the case. And for their stepfather, the silence inside the once busy home is deafening.
Going from a family of 7 to just me, I mean, I have nothing but time to just think.
RCMP insists this is still very much an active investigation. They're reviewing surveillance footage and following digital evidence. But the emotional toll has already left its mark on Martel, including the loss of custody of his daughter, Meadow.
I haven't even got to see my own kids, not even Meadow yet. But I'm still hopeful. I have supervised visits coming up that are granted by CPS.
The RCMP emphasized that there was no indication of foul play or abduction and that Lilly and Jack likely wandered away from their home. Consequently, an Amber Alert was not issued. Instead, alerts for vulnerable persons were circulated throughout Pictou County and surrounding areas. The case remained open and active. May 8, 2025, Lansdowne Station in Stellarton, Nova Scotia. The RCMP conducted an aerial search of the dense forest behind the Sullivan residence using a helicopter. Plainclothes investigators returned to speak with Daniel Martel, who reported that they were seeking to analyze any technology that could help identify phones that had connected to the property's internet. According to Martel's interview, a friend drove him to the Children's Protective Services, CPS office in Stellarton, where he requested to see his 16-month-old daughter, Meadow. His request was denied. Martel stated, "As of now, I can't be around Meadow." With the kids going missing, Children's Protective Services wants to keep a tight leash on everything. May 9, 2025, Lansdowne Station, Nova Scotia. Daniel Martel emphasized his full cooperation with investigators. He said, "I gave them everything from my phone. I asked for a lie detector test and drug tests. I'm the one trying to move this forward and give any information that I have." Martel also mentioned that the RCMP were examining the home's wireless router to determine who connected to the internet and when. A large RCMP truck was seen in the area. Martel said that the RCMP had searched Lansdowne Lake from the air via helicopter and also conducted an in-water search, but nothing was found. What we learned about the mother of Lilly and Jack Sullivan in June 2025 has turned this entire case upside down. Information that was hidden from the public has finally come to light and revealed the true face of Amelia Brooks Murray, a woman who should have been devastated by grief, but instead methodically destroyed all connections to her missing children. A woman who should have been begging for help chose complete silence. A woman who should have stayed near the scene of the disappearance fled and never returned. Today, we're going to tell the story, not about missing children, but about a mother whose behavior became the key to solving one of Canada's darkest mysteries. Hey everyone, if you've been following the Lilly and Jack Sullivan case, you know something felt wrong from the very beginning. But what we've discovered about their mother, Amelia Brooks Murray, has exceeded our wildest theories. Hit the like button if you're ready for shocking revelations. Subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments. Right where you're watching from, it's interesting to know how globally this case has captured attention. In the world of criminal investigations, there's an unspoken rule. A parent's behavior in the first 48 hours after a child's disappearance speaks louder than any evidence. Amelia Brooks Murray's behavior during those critical hours was so abnormal that experts are still studying it as a textbook example. Amelia Brooks Murray was born in 1998 into a Mi'kmaq family in Nova Scotia. Her mother, Cindy Murray, raised her daughter in the traditions of Indigenous people, but Amelia's life was marked by instability from an early age. By 23, she already had 2 children by a man who, according to officials, was not involved in raising them. Some reports suggested the children's father was under house arrest, but even this detail remained unconfirmed. In 2023, Amelia met Daniel Martel, a man 6 years older who worked at a local sawmill. Their relationship developed quickly, and soon Amelia moved into his isolated house on Garlock Road in Lansdowne Station. A year later, They had a daughter named Meadow. On the surface, everything looked like a typical story of a young family trying to build a life in rural Nova Scotia. But beneath this appearance of normality lurked troubling signs. Neighbors remembered strange activity at the house, cars arriving late at night, loud voices, smells they couldn't identify. One neighbor later admitted to reporters, "I always thought something was going on there, but I never thought children lived there." Melia was registered as a stay-at-home mom, but those who knew the family spoke of her frequent absences, especially in the evenings. Daniel worked only 1 day a week, a fact that puzzled everyone familiar with the lumber industry. How did a family of 5 survive on such income? This question would become critically important when the investigation began. Melia's relationship with the children also raised questions. School teachers described Lilly and Jack as quiet children who often came to school tired. Bus driver Brian Ward remembered that the children sometimes fell asleep on the bus ride home, which is unusual for energetic 6- and 4-year-olds. But the most troubling aspect of family life was the children's isolation. In a community where everyone knows everyone, Lilly and Jack remained practically invisible. They had no friends in the neighborhood, didn't participate in community events, and were rarely seen playing in the yard. This isolation would become a key factor in how long their absence went unnoticed. The last week of April 2025 became a turning point in the Sullivan family's life. From April 29th, the children no longer appeared at school. Melia explained their absence as Lily's illness, but no medical records of this illness were found. What was happening in the house during those days remains one of the case's main mysteries. On May 1st, an event occurred that completely changed the understanding of the case. According to RCMP data published on May 28, 2025, the children were observed in public with family members in New Glasgow. This information was shocking. If the children were alive and healthy on the afternoon of May 1st, what happened in the next 18 hours? On May 2nd at 10 a.m., Melia Brooks Murray made a call that changed everything. Her voice on the 911 recording was surprisingly calm for a mother reporting the disappearance of 2 small children. The dispatcher later noted that Melia spoke mechanically, without the emotions that usually accompany such calls. "My children are missing," she said in a simple, almost businesslike tone. When the dispatcher asked for details, Melia gave brief, laconic answers without the panic or despair characteristic of parents in such situations. This call would become the first red flag in a long series of suspicious behaviors. In the first hours after the call, Melia's behavior continued to puzzle rescue services. Instead of participating in organizing searches, she remained in the house, speaking with officials in the same monotonous voice. Search and rescue coordinators expected to see a grief-stricken mother begging for more resources. Instead, they met a woman who seemed detached from what was happening. The first and only television interview Melia gave was on May 3rd, less than 24 hours after the disappearance. This interview became the subject of intensive analysis by body language experts around the world. Her posture was closed, her eyes avoided direct contact with a camera, and her speech lacked the emotional coloring expected from a mother of missing children. "I just want to stay as hopeful as possible," she said, but her face expressed no hope. "I want them home," she added, but her voice sounded like she was ordering coffee. But the most troubling was her explanation. "We always make sure we're out there with them, watching them, and they just got out that sliding door, and we can't hear it when it opens." This statement contained a glaring contradiction. If they always watched the children, how could they sleep through their departure? The absence of tears, trembling in her voice, or any other signs of emotional stress was so striking that the interview was analyzed by FBI specialists as an example of abnormal behavior. But even before this interview, Melia had taken an action that many perceived as an attempt to control the narrative. She published a Facebook post demanding police issue an Amber Alert. "I want my babies home. My children are not shy to strangers and will go with anyone. They don't understand stranger danger," she wrote. This post became one of the most disturbing aspects of her behavior. Melia not only insisted on the abduction theory, but herself described how easily her children could be taken. Any mother knows such information isn't published on social media. It can be used against the children. But Melia seemed to be giving instructions to potential kidnappers. The most shocking was what happened immediately after this interview. Melia didn't return to the Search Coordination Center. Instead, she went to a search and rescue briefing on Landone Station Road. According to witnesses, she appeared there with Daniel, but her behavior was strange from the very beginning. In the middle of a presentation about search progress, Melia suddenly got up and left. Witnesses described her movements as purposeful, not panicked. The children, Lilly and Jack Sullivan, had not attended school all week since Tuesday. Their absence was explained by their mother as due to Lilly having a cough, but no medical records were found to confirm this. The community was growing increasingly concerned as days passed without any sign of the children. May 3, 2025. Early in the morning, at 7:57 a.m., the public was strongly advised to stay out of the woods surrounding the Sullivan residence. Authorities explained that while it might be tempting for neighbors and volunteers to help by searching the forest, such actions could severely disrupt the search efforts. The scent trails that search dogs rely on could be contaminated by human presence, broken branches, and debris. Drones equipped with thermal imaging were flying overhead, scanning for heat signatures, and every person entering the search area would divert the attention of ground search and rescue (GSR) teams away from the missing children to manage the unexpected visitors. The search was being conducted with scientific precision, following specific patterns based on math and search theory. The public was urged not to enter the woods but was encouraged to check their own sheds or properties near the search area, which is considered safe and different from entering the forest itself. By 4 p.m., emergency alert was reissued, signaling the escalation of the search. The RCMP had coordinated over 160 trained searchers, including volunteer ground search and rescue teams, police dogs, drones, and helicopters. Infrared surveillance technology was deployed to scan the heavily wooded terrain around home. The search area had expanded to approximately 4 square kilometers, reflecting the urgency and scale of the operation. The alert described 6-year-old Lilly Sullivan as having shoulder-length light brown hair with bangs, possibly wearing a pink sweater, pink pants, and pink boots. 4-year-old Jack was described as having short blondish hair and wearing blue dinosaur boots. The public was urged to call police or Crime Stoppers with any information. That evening, Melia Brooks-Murray and Daniel Martell attended a briefing at the Search and Rescue Headquarters on Lansdowne Station Road. According to Daniel Martell, Melia left the briefing abruptly, sitting in the back of an ambulance before leaving the area with her mother. Martell stated that he had not seen or heard from her since, and that she had cut off all contact with him. At 6:59 p.m., an official update confirmed that search efforts were ongoing in Pictou County for the missing children. The RCMP believed the children had wandered away from their home on Gairloch Road in Lansdowne Station. Ground search and rescue teams, along with air services from the Civil Air Search and Rescue Association and the Department of Natural Resources, were actively involved. Inspector Mike Ingalls, acting district policing officer, praised the strategic and thorough work of the search teams, who were using a variety of tools and resources to comb the heavily wooded rural area. The public was again urged to contact the Pictou County District RCMP if they had any information about the children's whereabouts. May 4, 2025. The morning brought new details from Daniel Martell, who recounted his version of the timeline. He believed the children had slipped quietly out the back door. He said that early in the morning, Lilly came into the room multiple times while Jack was likely playing in the kitchen. Shortly after, he thought the children quietly opened the back sliding door and went outside. Their boots were found beside the door, supporting this theory. Moments later, Martell assumed they exited through the back fence and left the property. Upon realizing the children were gone, Martell said he immediately got into his car and began searching nearby dirt roads, culverts, rivers, and streams. Approximately 10 minutes later, he returned home and resumed the search on foot. By 7:30 p.m., the search had expanded significantly. Over 130 searchers were involved during the day, supported by dozens of additional staff. Drone teams and a helicopter were active in the air, while 5 K9 units were deployed on the ground. 3 of these K9 teams were from Heavy Urban Search and Rescue in Halifax, alongside 1 SAR K9 and 1 Royal Canadian Mounted Police K9 from Nova Scotia. 10 search teams were on the ground that day, with 12 more planned for the overnight shift from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. May 5, 2025. On this day, Daniel Martell was interviewed by the Pictou County RCMP for several hours. The RCMP stated that at this time, there was no evidence of foul play or abduction. An Amber Alert was not issued. Instead, a vulnerable persons alert was broadcast locally. RCMP spokesperson Corporal Carly McCann explained that Amber Alerts require specific criteria, including the belief that a child has been abducted. Since there was no evidence of abduction and the children were believed to have wandered away, the Amber Alert was not activated. She added that the children were not believed to be with an adult. The response was described as a multi-agency effort with a variety of resources deployed. A focus search was initiated after a report of a child's boot print found near the Sullivan residence. This led search crews to concentrate their efforts in that specific area, hoping to find clues to the children's whereabouts. May 6, 2025. During the search, items including a child's clothing and a water bottle were found. However, Daniel Martel stated that these items did not belong to Lilly or Jack. The family urged the RCMP to expand the search beyond provincial borders and airports, suggesting the possibility of abduction. Meanwhile, Melia Brooks Murray had been staying with her mother in a nearby town since the children went missing. That night, the RCMP deployed 4 remotely piloted aircraft systems, RPAS operators, to aid the search. These drones, equipped with forward-looking infrared FLIR technology, enhanced nighttime search capabilities by detecting thermal variations. This technology helped guide ground search teams to potential areas of interest. The drone operation complemented the ongoing efforts of ground search and rescue teams and other support resources from across the province. The public was again urged to provide any potentially relevant information to the police immediately. May 7, 2025. RCMP officers arrived at the Sullivan residence and requested Daniel Martel to turn over his phone. Martel complied and handed it over to investigators. When reporters asked Cindy Murray, the maternal grandmother, about the investigation, she declined to comment, stating, "We're not discussing anything right now. The police told us not to." At 2:11 p.m., the RCMP announced a scaling back of ground search operations. They cited the extensive coverage of the terrain and the lack of confirmed sightings as reasons for this decision. During a press conference, officials revealed that over 6 days, more than 160 trained volunteers had participated daily in a large-scale effort covering roughly 4 square kilometers of dense forest. Despite the use of helicopters, drones, infrared imaging, and police dogs, there had been no confirmed sightings of the missing children. The investigation would continue, but fewer searchers would be deployed. She got into an ambulance, which initially caused concern among those present who thought she had become ill. But this wasn't a medical problem, it was a panic attack. What could have caused such a reaction in a woman who had seemed surprisingly calm before? Perhaps the information at the briefing contradicted what she knew about the children's final hours. Perhaps she realized the searches were moving in a direction that could expose her lies. When her mother, Cindy Murray, arrived, Melia took 16-month-old Meadow and left the area. She didn't say goodbye to Daniel, didn't leave contact information for search coordinators, didn't give any explanations. She simply disappeared, leaving behind only questions and growing suspicions. This moment became a turning point in the Sullivan case. Within hours of Melia's departure, the atmosphere at the coordination center changed. Volunteers began whispering. Officials exchanged puzzled looks. The mother's behavior was so unprecedented that many didn't know how to react. That same evening, Melia committed an act that shocked even the most cynical observers. She went on Facebook and changed her relationship status from in a relationship to single. She also changed her profile photo. These actions were recorded by several social media users who couldn't believe what they were seeing. Changing family status on social media less than 36 hours after children's disappearance was an act without precedent in criminal history. Family psychology experts describe this as behavior of someone who didn't expect family reunification. This wasn't an act of despair or confusion. This was a cold, calculated move. From this moment, Melia Brooks Murray effectively disappeared from the case of her own children's disappearance. She blocked Daniel on all social media, refused to answer journalist calls, and didn't appear at any public events related to searching for Lilly and Jack. Her disappearance created a vacuum in the investigation. Police were forced to rely on Daniel's testimony and other family members, but the mother's voice, the most important witness, was lost. This silence began speaking louder than any words. When journalists tried to contact Melia in subsequent weeks, her response was always the same. RCMP advised me not to talk to media. But criminal behavior experts knew such advice is usually given to suspects, not victims. Police encourage parents of missing children to actively interact with the press, as this helps maintain public attention and can attract witnesses. The advice for Melia to remain silent indicated she was not a victim, but a potential suspect. Her status in the investigation changed from victim mother to person of interest. This change happened surprisingly quickly, suggesting police had strong grounds for suspicion. Meanwhile, Melia settled with her mother in Wentworth, Nova Scotia, about an hour's drive from the disappearance scene. She not only left the house where she last saw her children, but moved to another jurisdiction, complicating police procedures. This move also meant she was physically removed from any potential discoveries or new search operations. Melia's decision to leave the search area was particularly striking in the context of Mi'kmaq culture, to which the children belonged. In indigenous traditions, family and communities stay together during difficult times, supporting each other. Melia's departure contradicted not only maternal instincts, but the cultural norms of her own people. Chief Michelle Glasgow from Sipek-Katik First Nation made several public statements about the case, calling for unity and support. But notably, she did not mention any personal support or mention of Melia. This silence in a tightly connected indigenous community was eloquent. It suggested even her own community had questions about her behavior. As the investigation continued, the strangenesses in Melia's behavior only accumulated. On June 2, 2025, a public prayer was held in Stellarton for Lilly and Jack. Hundreds of people gathered to honor the children's memory and support the searches. Strangers came whose hearts were touched by the children's story. Participants prayed, cried, and shared memories of children they had never seen. Tonight is about saying a prayer, and we're going to light the way home for them. A paper lantern for 4-year-old Jack, another for 6-year-old Lily, released into the twilight sky as a beacon of hope. Illuminate the path for Lily and Jack. Guide their footsteps home. One by one, people placed candles, teddy bears, and angels outside the Stellarton RCMP detachment, a growing memorial. As many questions are still unanswered, investigators remain committed to exploring all possibilities surrounding the children's disappearance. We want to thank all those who provided tips and information. Please know that we're fully engaged in finding out what happened to Lily and Jack. Some family members of the two children looked on as dozens of community members showed they care. It's like every parent's worst nightmare. You don't ever want to have to ever go through something like this, and I think it's good to show them that their community is here for support if they need it. But Melia didn't appear. The mother's absence from an event dedicated to her own children was so shocking that organizers were forced to give explanations to the press. Seeing strangers crying for Lily and Jack while their own mother stayed home was unbearable for many present. This absence became a symbol of her complete alienation from the tragedy she herself had created. This absence was particularly painful because even strangers attended who were deeply moved by the children's story. Seeing unknown people crying for Lily and Jack while their own mother remained at home was unbearable for many attendees. Some participants openly expressed their anger and confusion about her absence. Analysis of Melia's social media for the period before the disappearance also revealed troubling patterns. Her last posts before May 2nd were unusually dark, with hints at difficult times and need for changes. Even more troubling was that within 48 hours of the disappearance, she began calling the children angels, a word parents usually avoid at all costs unless they've reached an unthinkable conclusion. For most, this word is reserved for memorials spoken in whispers months, sometimes years after getting final answers. But for Melia, it came immediately, almost rehearsed, as if grief had skipped denial entirely and landed somewhere much more practiced. Digital forensics experts also noted that Melia's social media activity drastically changed after May 2nd. She stopped making typical parental posts, deleted many family photos, and changed privacy settings. These actions suggested a conscious attempt to distance herself from her role as Lily and Jack's mother. When RCMP published information that the children were seen on May 1st in New Glasgow, Melia's behavior took on an even more sinister tone. She knew about this video recording from the very beginning but never used this information constructively. Any innocent mother would have used these frames to appeal to witnesses, clarify timelines, show that the children were healthy and happy. Instead, Melia kept silent about this critically important information. Her silence suggested she knew drawing attention to the children's final hours was dangerous for her. This silence was perhaps the most incriminating aspect of her behavior. By June 2025, the picture was clear to all objective observers. Melia Brooks Murray demonstrated behavior that completely contradicted that of an innocent mother of missing children. Every action, from the mechanical interview to changing social media status, from leaving the briefing to complete disappearance, pointed to knowledge of a terrible truth. Her behavior became a textbook example for law enforcement agencies worldwide. Courses on investigating child disappearances now include analysis of the Sullivan case as an example of how parental behavior can reveal truth even before discovering physical evidence. The story of Melia Brooks Murray is the story of a woman who chose to keep secrets instead of searching for her children. It's the story of a mother who preferred self-preservation over maternal love. And perhaps most terrifyingly, it's the story of a woman who knew her children didn't need rescue because there was no one left to rescue. The Lilly and Jack Sullivan case continues, but one thing has become crystal clear: their mother knows the truth. And this truth is so horrible that she's ready to carry it in silence, even if it means justice for her children may never prevail. The story of Melia Brooks Murray showed us only one side of this horrifying tragedy. But what we learned about her behavior was only the beginning. Because when we start analyzing Daniel Martel's behavior, the children's stepfather, the picture becomes even more shocking. If you thought the mother's coldness was horrifying, wait until you hear about how the man who was supposed to protect these children behaved. His contradictory testimony, his theatrical emotions before cameras, and most importantly, his knowledge of details he shouldn't have known. Don't leave now. I'm going to show you the complete picture of this case. What you'll learn about Daniel Martel and what really happened in that house will exceed all your worst assumptions. Hit like if you're ready to learn the whole truth, and get ready for the continuation of an investigation that will completely change your understanding of the Sullivan case, because the story I'm about to tell will prove once and for all this wasn't a search for missing children. This was an attempt to cover up a crime.